All right, welcome back to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. My name's Chris Spear, and I'm going to be your guide to enjoying the great outdoors. So today I'm doing something a little bit different. I am actually live streaming to YouTube while I am recording this podcast for the podcast platforms. If my voice sounds a little different today, it's because I have been out in the woods teaching survival skills to a bunch of boys that I mentor. We learned how to put together a shelter. We learned how to start a fire, how to collect different things for fire, like your tinder and your kindling and then your fuel. I showed the boys how to do the char cloth. I showed the boys how to actually filter their water and drink the water, how to use a metal container to drink the water and to purify the water. So all in all, we had a real good day. We had a real good time, and it was just a great day outdoors. The kids were so enthusiastic about it. Their favorite part was being able to use the char cloth that they made to actually start a fire, and they had a 100% success rate in using the char cloth, making it and taking it and putting it inside a tinder bundle and then throwing a spark to it with a ferro rod. And they made a little ferro rod necklace with a little striker, and it was pretty cool. And these kids just really ate this up. So if you're looking into wanting to get involved with doing some stuff like that with some fatherless boys, and Truth in Nature is an amazing Christian organization where you could actually be there and fill in the gaps for some of these young boys that don't have a father figure in their life. And I've got regular 7-8 boys that come routinely to every month's program, and these kids really learn a lot, and they really just bond with you and all the other mentors. And it's all about building lasting relationships and teaching these kids how to be a man in today's world. You know, I am all about teaching toxic masculinity to young men, because that's what we need on this planet. So if that offends, find some place else to watch. But anyway, on today's show, we're going to talk about food. We're going to continue our subject of food, and you know, we're breaking into the dehydrator. So I've talked about this before last year on this actual podcast, and what we did last week. So what we did last week is we talked about, you know, the 5 different areas of food. You got dehydrated food, and, you know, that's using a regular dehydrator. And then you have your freeze-dried foods, which is most commonly like your Mountain House meals or your different brands of dehydrated foods. Then you have your just add water foods, and that's just like your instant mashed potatoes or your noodles or your whatever. You just add a little bit of water, you cook it, and you're good to go. Then we had our prepackaged foods. Now, these prepackaged foods will include stuff like Vienna sausages or beans or, you know, broccoli and rice or macaroni and cheese. You know, that was prepackaged foods. That was actually the just add water. I was reading the wrong spot. Prepackaged foods is actually Vienna sausages and sardines and a can of beans, any kind of canned foods. Summer sausage comes to mind as a perfect prepackaged food. And what I really like about summer sausage is the fact that, and I've touched on it several times, I touched on it last week as well, that one of the most beautiful things about summer sausage is that it does not have to be refrigerated until after you open it. And then after you open it, you still got a couple of days that you can use it, depending on whether it being 900 degrees outside, you know, like it is here. Now, the next part is going to be procured food. We talked about procured food, and that'll be like for here in South Mississippi, hunting and fishing, you know, stuff like that, foraging mushrooms, different other foods. Don't forage mushrooms unless you know what the heck you're doing, because out of the thousands and thousands of mushrooms, only like 270 of them are edible, or 70 of them are edible. I don't remember. So even then, that should give you a clue. So anyway, dehydrating. So dehydrating your food is fairly a simple process, and there are several different kinds of dehydrators you can use. You got the small, cheap dehydrators that can be found at department stores, and then you got the bigger ones that are basically commercial dehydrators. And so what I got is the LEM or LEM, and I got it from Academy Sports, and it has got the 5 trays in there, and I love using this thing. And we talked about this briefly last week, where this dehydrator, you know, it can take a good 8-pound roast and condense it down to 3 pounds of meat, you know, so you're losing 5 pounds of water weight, you know, out of the roast. So, but then you got vegetables. Like vegetables they go from being real heavy, and they got a lot. You never realize how much water or how much fluids are actually in a vegetable until you actually throw them in the dehydrator. Once you throw them into the dehydrator, dude, they shrivel up and they turn into practically nothing. And you can dehydrate anything, and you can rehydrate almost anything. And dehydrators are amazing, and they're very affordable. They're economically affordable to anyone that wants to do it. So I just realized, if anything looks weird on the videos, I forgot to turn the overhead light off. But it's all good. So, but anyway, so dehydrators are an amazing asset to have whenever you're making your own food, when you're heading out into the woods. It's really a good tool to use, and that's what it is. It's a tool. It's not it's anything other than that. It's just like a pot and pan is a tool. You use that tool to cook your food and to get your food ready to eat, you know, or boil your water, or you know, in South Mississippi, burl. You're going to burl your water, you know. But one of the best things that I love to make with a dehydrator, and I know everybody's pretty much the same way, is beef jerky. Now, beef jerky is extremely versatile. You can eat it on its own, or you can add it to beans, stews, soups, or, you know, help make a more complete meal. Now, the homemade beef jerky is a lot different than the store-bought stuff. The store-bought stuff has so many preservatives. It's crazy. You got preservatives in it. You got, you know, it's really horrible what they actually do to beef. It's not even really beef jerky. It's really not. Beef jerky in a dehydrator is so much healthier for you. It's so much better for you. And there's tons of studies and of all the diets, you know, out there. The one where you're just, the carnivore diet is basically, or is the absolute healthiest diet for you. And, you know, so, you know, beef jerky is easy to make, it's fun to make, and I guarantee you, out of an 8-pound roast, and you cut that thing up and you get it on that dehydrator and you dehydrate that thing, I promise you that it is going to not last very long. So beef jerky is one of those amazing things that you can experiment with it. You can make what you want to make with it. It doesn't have to be, there's no wrong way. It's kind of like bushcraft. It's kind of like bushcraft and survival. There's no wrong way. There's only an end result. Whatever it is, the outcome that you want and that you achieve or strive for, that's what you're going to get. Now, beef jerky is easy to make. And so you want, like, I have a local butcher's market or a local grocery store here that has a butcher shop in the back, or a meat department, that they actually slice your meat up for you. And excuse me, but these guys, I will go and get a top round or inside round roast, or, you know, eye round roast or whatever, and I'll have them slice it. And I just tell them, sandwich meat thin for beef jerky, and they know exactly what they're doing. They'll go in there and they'll slice that puppy real thin, and they usually trim most of the fat off of it too. Fat is like when it comes to beef jerky, you don't want a lot of fat on there because that's what makes it rancid. That what actually causes it to spoil is the beef jerky. It is the fat. And so the oils and the fats go rancid and they just they turn nasty. But when you get them to slice your beef jerky as thick or as thin as you want. The thicker the jerky is, the longer you're going to have to dehydrate it. The thinner it is, the shorter amount of time you got to dehydrate it. And one of the things that I love about beef jerky is that once you get that thing marinated, you put any flavor you want on beef jerky. Some people do just straight up salt and pepper. Some people throw it in, teriyaki sauce or, whatever. Or what's old Texas Pete, the guy on TikTok, the chef this dude has grown. He has made a massive following. And Pepper Belly Pete, I'm sorry, I thought it was Texas Pete. Pepper Belly Pete, and he's on TikTok. And this dude he's coined a term, wash your sister sauce, who's your sister sauce, or every time it's something different, and go ahead and try to pronounce it. It's like almost impossible. Worcestershire sauce, whatever. And you can use that. And I found a stuff called Moore's. Moore's is a steak marinade, and it's called Spicy Moore's. And I'm telling you right now, it is the absolute best marinade. Pork chops is great in it. Chicken's great in it. Beef is great in it. And it's very hard. It's very hard to find a marinade that works between all the different meats, and I haven't tried it on fish yet, but I might actually try it on some fish. That'd be crazy. I never tried a marinade on a fish. I usually salt and pepper and lemon or oranges or, some kind of fruit or citrus. Well, anyway, so you place your meat on your dehydrator rack, and it's going to take 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on however long you're going to do it. You're going to put it on your rack. Then you're going to, don't let them touch too much. They can overlap just a touch, a little bit, but you don't want them to you don't want one piece laying on top of another piece like this. So once you lay it on, I like to sprinkle them with a seasoning called Tony Chachere's. And it is a Cajun seasoning that we got down here. And it's the same as like Slap Your Mama or the Texas Pete stuff or whatever, or not Texas Pete, but Pepper Belly Pete stuff, whatever he calls it. But once you've done that, you season it pretty good. Now, I'm going to give you a secret recipe, and I'm going to tell you right here and right now of a recipe of beef jerky that will drive everybody in your home nuts. It'll drive anybody that ever tried it crazy, and you will not be able to make enough of it. I can promise you. You get your roast beef. You get your roast sliced real thin, like sandwich meat. All right. Then you marinate it with Zatarain's liquid crab or shrimp boil. All right. Now, you're going to put just a little bit in there. It goes a long way, and we'll get back to that. Then you're going to take that and you're going to stick it onto your trays. Okay. Now you're going to mix it up real good. Just a little bit more than a capful or 2 capfuls will work. And you just mix it up real good like that. And then you take that meat and you put it on your trays. And then you sprinkle your trays with a little bit of salt and a little bit of cayenne pepper. And come back in, you put the trays in, let them dehydrate. And when they're about a quarter of the way done, something like that, maybe halfway done, they're starting to shrivel up, change colors, start turning dark. That's when you're going to take a cap of that Zatarain's crab boil, and you're going to put several drops on each piece. Oh, dude, I'm telling you right now, that stuff is great. It is great. I cannot tell you enough how much it's great. But it's good stuff. But you can use anything. You can use any kind of seasoning you want. You don't even have to use it. You can use salt, pepper, and that's it. Now, there is a guy that he sent me. I forget where he's at. He's Candy, Man Candy. I think the name of it is Man Candy. He sent me some beef jerky to try, and he has some cracked pepper stuff or some kind of pepper, and it was good. And his beef jerky was real beef jerky. It didn't have all the preservatives and everything. So Man Candy is the name, his name, or the name of his company. And he does it on his own. He makes his own stuff and sells it. So, but it's good stuff too. He does real good, and it reminds me of homemade beef jerky that you make at your house. But here's the thing: if you're out in the woods, you're taking this with you to rehydrate or to cook or whatever, or just to eat. You have some protein or whatever. You could take that roast, you can dehydrate it and rehydrate it in a soup or stew or something. Now you have to cook it a little while, and it takes a little while to cook. I mean, by a little while, I mean a long time. But it will get tender. You will get tender. And you can take that meat, you could put it in a stew, you could put it in beans, you could put it in practically anything. You can make a dish, whatever. And that stuff, it really does work, and it's very good. So moving on, and if anybody's following along in the book, we're on page 186, and so we're looking at eggs. There's nothing like scrambled eggs for breakfast, and I just went on a trip this past weekend with Dave, and old Dave and I have started going camping together, and it's a real good time. He's a great friend of mine, and he took a bunch of scrambled eggs, like 6 or 7 of them, and he used a funnel, cracked them, threw them in a funnel, shook them up, scrambled them, and put them in a water bottle, an empty water bottle, and stored them like that. And I was like, dude, that's 6 eggs. That's like $100 worth of eggs. That's crazy. And here's another thing: is I've never in my lifetime seen eggs this expensive. I was going through the big box store that starts with a W and ends with a T, and I was looking at the grocery aisle back there where the eggs are, and they had 60 eggs for $35. I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, that's what, 5 dozen eggs at $35? That is ridiculous. But anyway, scrambled eggs for breakfast is amazing, especially on open fire, especially when you're camping. Scrambled eggs is awesome. Breakfast, mix that with a little bit of Spam. Eggs are just awesome. So, but you can scramble your own eggs, and you can dehydrate your own eggs. Now, here's the thing about dehydrated eggs: it does not taste exactly the same as fresh eggs for sure, or freeze-dried eggs for sure, but it does taste like eggs. It has a more of a rubbery texture to it when you rehydrate it. But I love eggs, and eggs is good stuff. So what you want to do with that is you want to get some parchment paper, and set that parchment paper down on your tray. You want to cut it out. Now, certain dehydrators actually sell sheets that you can put, and you can buy and put on your dehydrator already. You got the little round ones. They come with the little round sheets that you can put in there. I find it just as easy to buy parchment paper. It does exactly the same thing. And you buy the parchment paper, and you cut it, and you set it on your tray. Now, my dehydrator is square. It's a real big square, and it's easier. Just cut them, stick them, and go for it. Now, in the book here, I showed using liquid egg whites. All right. Now, nothing wrong with it. And I talked with a guy. I saw a short video on TikTok, or Facebook, or InstaTube, or whatever. And I talked to him through a message. He was like, man, I'm having a hard time dehydrating these eggs. What am I doing wrong? And I told him, I said, look, you can you could do it this way. I use the pre-carton stuff. That way I don't have to crack the eggs or anything like that. And so he tried it. He's like, thanks. I have to try it out. So if you dehydrate whole eggs, you have to separate the yolks from the whites and dehydrate them separately. And once you put them in the dehydrator and you go ahead and do that for 140 degrees for about 10 hours or until they're completely dry, they will turn yellow. Even the yolk, the whites, egg whites will turn yellow like scrambled eggs. And, you put them inside a food processor or a little Ninja chopper or whatever, and you turn them into powder. Now, when you go to reconstitute these dudes, you're going to put 1 tablespoon of eggs, of the powder that you just made, to 3 tablespoons of water. You're going to stir it. You're going to let it sit for a little while. It takes a little while. And anytime you hear me say it takes a little while, that means a long time. So it's going to take a while for these things to actually reconstitute, but they can reconstitute. So once you do that, you cook it like you would a regular egg. Now, I'm going to warn you. That way you don't come back and say, hey, Chris at Spear Outdoors said we could do this and it tasted like crap, so we're going to sue him. Eggs done this way are more rubbery tasting. It's not like a fresh egg, but this is actually decreasing your weight and making it to where you can hike with it or, primitive camp or do your bushcraft or practice your survival or do whatever it is you're going to do. And we know that a lot of people out there just harp on the survival and all they're doing is primitive camping. So we're moving on now. We're going to do one of my favorites. The next 2 that we're going to do, next 3 that we're going to do is amazing. You take 6 or 7 fresh tomatoes. And you slice them dudes about 1/8 of an inch thick. And, oh man, them things are amazing. Like fresh tomatoes off of the dehydrator. Once you eat a tomato chip, dude, it's got the most bold flavor. And you add that to a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And man, that stuff is amazing, dude. Well, anyway, so you go ahead and slice these things about 1/8 inch thick, and then you just put them to where they're barely touching each other on your rack all the way around. Dress that thing up, stick it in there, put a little bit, touch of salt, touch of pepper on there. Put it in there for, how long did I put it in there for? Yeah, you're going to do 145 to 150 degrees for about 5 to 7 hours. And then once again, the times are relevant. The times are just to give you a baseline to try. Ultimately, it's until everything is completely dehydrated. It's not there. I can't explain it. There's not a set time that everything's going to be. It's like whenever you look on the back of a box, whenever you're cooking some cornbread or a cake or something like that, it says 22 to 25 minutes. Each oven's different. Each dehydrator is different. Everything is different. So now when you do these tomatoes like this, get ready. I'm telling you now, it is one of the most amazing flavors. It is so bold that it just, you get the entire flavor of the tomato all at one time. I cannot explain it. If you never tried a dehydrated tomato chip, I promise you would not be disappointed. Now, why would you use a tomato chip? Dehydrated tomatoes. Well, you can crumble it up and turn it into a powder and use it for a soup base while you're out into the woods. All right. Now, you take a fish. You take your fish, you boil your fish, debone your fish and everything. You got that meat, add some tomatoes in there, add a little bit of onions in there or whatever, dehydrate stuff in there and you have a fish soup and you retained all the nutrients and oils and fats from that fish in the soup. And so you're actually doing you're doing yourself a good favor by retaining all those nutrients. Okay. And it really does give you a pick me up, and it really does boost your energy whenever you boil your foods and drink it. Now I ain't gonna lie, it sucks after drinking liquid foods for a couple weeks, but you're getting all the nutrients from it. You're not losing any nutrients, and you're using all the nutrients. Now, one of the other things that my brother had turned me on to was squash and zucchini. And some people are like, well, they're both a squash. Well, I'm talking yellow squash and zucchini squash. All right, I fixed that. So you wouldn't believe the amount of complainers. You would not believe people get up in the comments and just start you said this, you said that, But anyway, making chips from dehydrated squash and zucchini is a fantastic, healthy alternative. Golly, I can't even talk today. This is crazy. But an alternative to the old El Potato chip, the old fat drenched potato chip. And I need to do this because I'm starting to look like I've been living in a potato chip closet. I'm starting to gain weight. So, but they give you the same crunch that a potato chip gives, and you can add them into a pot of stew, or you can reconstitute them and just cook them or eat them whole. And that's awesome because they're awesome. You put a little salt and pepper on there. And if you're looking for a healthy chip and you want a healthy diet and, something with high fiber and without all the saturated fats, without all the garbage that you get in a potato chip bag, look, have you seen the price of potato chips lately? Holy moly. So you get a bag of chips like this. All right. And like a Doritos, nah, I ain't even gonna name no brands, but you get a bag of chips like this, and you open that dude up, and all the chips is down here, and you paid $6 for that chips. That's crazy. That is ridiculous. I don't know why people pay for it. People are lazy and people just run out there and just grab stuff instead of researching and doing stuff themselves. All right. So I could take that $6 and I could go down to the grocery store and I could buy $6 worth of zucchini and squash, yellow squash, or any flavor squash. If you like any other kind of squash, it doesn't matter as long as it's a squash. Yeah, you take that daggone squash and slice it up, put it in here. You're going to have more potato chips for $6, or I don't mean potatoes, but you're going to have more chips for $6 to put inside a bag than you would if you went to the store and bought the unhealthy ones. And it's cheaper. You get more for your money, and it's ridiculous, and it does the same thing, except for it don't give you all the fats. If there's a problem. If you could take certain corn chips, I ain't gonna call nobody out, but if you could take certain corn chips that people like to use in videos to start fires, I've actually done it here, and there's like 4 different ones, and you set them on a paper towel or set them on something, and that much grease gets on the paper towel, dude, what are you eating, man? Golly, that's crazy. So moving along, you're going to dehydrate those at 145 to 150 degrees for 7 to 10 hours. Imagine that, 7 to 10 hours. Thicker slices are going to take a little longer. Once finished, let it cool down and then store them in a vacuum sealed bag. I like to take mine, put them in a vacuum sealed bag, and then I'll put them in the freezer. The reason why I do that is because they last longer. No rhyme or reason. I don't know why I do that. I've had problems where chips tend to puncture the bag, and if they puncture the bag, then they're no good after sitting for a while. So they all get all soggy again. It's crazy. All right, onions. They are a huge cooking staple. And then onions are amazing. All these vegetables can be reconstituted. Now, you can reconstitute all these vegetables. And a lot of commercial seasonings start with onions, and they'll dehydrate these onions down, and then they will put them in a food processor, and they will grind them down to a powder, and you sprinkle that stuff in your food, onion powder. And you do the same thing at the house. You can make your own onion powder. You don't even have to have a dehydrator. You can do it in an oven at the lowest setting. Just don't let it burn. You can do the same thing with garlic. I've done garlic before, and what's funny is that whenever you dehydrate garlic, if I did mince garlic one time, dehydrated it, and it looked exactly like anybody remember that cereal Grape Nuts? That's exactly what it looked like. So you can do the same thing there. You could do mushrooms. Mushrooms are, you take them big portobello mushrooms and you go ahead and dehydrate them. By the time you have a mushroom this big, it's going to end up like this. I mean, it's going to be teensy weensy tiny. And mushrooms are, they almost disappear whenever you dehydrate them. Now, what I love to do with mushrooms is not throw them back in whole like that. I love to make a powder out of them. And take that powder and put it in my food, my stews, my whatever. And that mushroom powder is good. Here lately, you know what? This year I didn't find any lion's mane mushrooms, but I would love to get me some more lion's mane powder. I'm almost out from the ones I made last year, but they last forever. Now, mushrooms are an absolute favorite item to dehydrate, and I love using them in my food. But be warned, they shrink a lot during this process. So bell peppers work too. We're going to be running out of time here. We're hitting 32, 33 minutes. Bell peppers work. Any vegetable that you want to use, you can use in this dehydrator, and you could take them, you can make your own seasonings with them. You can dehydrate, you can process them down into a powder. You can use a mortar and pestle and mortar, whatever you want to call it. And you could pulverize them, turn them into a real fine powder, and put them in a little vial or a Ziploc bag. You don't even have to have any vials or anything like that. Just use a Ziploc bag and take it out into the woods with you and use it to hunt. Now, not to hunt, to cook. And then I've seen people, in these amazing videos that get millions and millions and millions of views, and dude was like 14,000 feet up in the mountain overlooking the valley with a stream and a creek, not a tree around, and he's cooking a fish on a stump. And I'm like, dude, there ain't a tree for 13 miles. And where'd you find a stump? And he had to track that thing in there to do that, but he's using all fresh vegetables, and, and it's a great video. I'm not going to lie about that. It was a great video, but these things are very lightweight. So if you're going to be hiking somewhere, dehydrating your food is an awesome way that anybody can do at home. Anybody can use it at home with an oven, with a dehydrator, and it can be done. So you don't have to have a freeze dryer, which we're going to get into next week. We're going to talk about some freeze dried foods next week. And so, but until then, look, guys, if you have y'all seen that new video I just did? Let's see. For those of you that's going to be watching the podcast, I'm going to roll a video right here. I know what you're thinking. Not another video about coffee. But if I have to be honest, it is really that good. That video was pretty cool. I shot that while I was camping this last week. And then for those of you that are watching the live stream, I just did a video of a super slow motion with the DJI Action Cam 5 Pro or whatever. And it did like 250 frames a second. And this slowed the fire down so cool. The fire was behind the coffee. And, I did the Premium Camping Blend coffee. And dude, it was so cool. It was a cool video, and it was cool doing it out there in the woods, at the campsite. But hey, look, if you don't mind, go ahead and show some support. Pick you up a pack of Primitive Camping and Bushcraft blend coffee. I'll put the links in the video description, into the podcast links and stuff like that. And hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time. God bless you.